All right, we're going to try this once again. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to go over government job questions, anything about the federal hiring process to help move you closer to accepting a government job. So the first thing we talked about earlier, but I think it's worth mentioning, are the incentives. You got the recruitment incentive, 25% of your base salary. This could be, if you have a $100,000 salary and they're going to give you a 25% incentive, that's $25,000. Now, a service agreement is required for that one. Then we have a relocation incentive. This is for current federal employees. The same thing with retention. This is for current federal employees. Now, what I focused on with a lot of live streams, a lot of people, is negotiating your pay. You can negotiate it with superior qualifications. This means you have the experience, you have the credentials, you have taught the actual subject. If you're going to be, let's say you're going to be a budget analyst, you've taught people how to analyze budgets for years. You can use that to get a higher step. It can be all the way up to step 10. And it happens pretty much every day. People are able to successfully get step 10. Step 1 and step 10, we're talking $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year. That's the difference. Now, then we have the annual leave service credit. So it's not just for military members. You can negotiate this. You can't go beyond 15 years. That means you can't negotiate it more than 8 hours per pay period. So it starts off at 4 hours per pay period. Then after 3 years, it's 6 hours per pay period. Then after 15 years, then it's 8 hours per pay period. So that's important to understand. This can require a service agreement, meaning that you agree to stay within that agency for so long. Okay, now back to the questions that we asked earlier. Let's check. Okay, good. All right. People who leave federal government jobs, where do they go? We talked about this. And where are they going? They're going defense contracting in the DC area. They're doing defense contracting. They're also going to state, local, county, city government jobs. They're transitioning that way. Next question was, David says, most jobs require you to be past your 52 weeks of probation. Probation doesn't limit you to a better job. So probation, whether you're at that agency for 1 month or 11 months, if you take another job, if you transfer to a different agency, you just have to finish your probation time. So that could be 12 months is what's standard, could be 24 months, could be 36 months. So that's important to understand about probation. The different, Clarice, with term versus permanent, what are the pros and cons if you switch from permanent to term? And so with term, it's temporary. This is different than going on a detail. So with term, you have to ask yourself, do you have return rights? Even if it's a temporary promotion, are you going to be able to come back to your permanent position? If not, there's an expiration date on that position. And that should concern you, right? If you care about stability and security, most people are going to say, just stay at your permanent job. Don't take the gamble with going to the term job. Okay. So it looks like sound is good. That's wonderful. All right. So we have Govt. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'm on my SF 85P. Okay. So you're filling out your public trust or your security clearance. And it looks like completed, but investigator called me Friday and asked my father's occupation. He was expired. What does that mean? He was expired. To me, that means he passed away. I don't know if he passed away or not, but it looks like you forgot to input the occupation of your father, and that was a required text field, so that's what they're going to want to know. As they're adjudicating your background, if there's anything that comes up, especially when it comes to foreign influence, that's a huge one. If there's any reason to suspect that you have foreign ties, this could be family members, these could be acquaintances or friends. If there are foreign ties, that sends up alarm bell. They want to explore, what are these foreign ties? Can they influence you in a negative way? So with a security clearance, you're going to have access to classified information, more likely than not. At least you're going to be in a place, even if you're not directly, interacting with the classified information, it's going to be in the area, and you're going to have cleared access to the area. So hypothetically, you could pose danger to the country if you took those documents and you shared them with the wrong people. So that's what they're concerned about. So just, maintain transparency, keep communicating with the adjudicator, whoever's conducting the investigation, keep talking to them, and you should be able to get through there with no issue. All right, next question. What if you get a condition of employment notice that they'll only bring you up to step 1. This is prior to the interview. Thoughts? This is from Clinton. Thank you, Clinton, for joining me. Okay, good question. If they're letting you know ahead of time that they're not able to negotiate past step 1, I would believe them. So ask yourself the question, if this is for a GS-13 step 1, is that a sufficient salary? If it's not, then I would continue to apply. Another way to look at it, I mean, do you already have a job offer? Is this something that you're willing to consider? Because right now you're in a toxic situation, or right now you need the income. I mean, what is your level of urgency when it comes to seeking federal employment? Because if it's not very high, if you're in a decent position and you can afford to wait and keep applying and try to find a better opportunity, maybe one that will negotiate with you. And in my experience, I would say over 50% of the agencies are willing to negotiate with you. When they're not, it's usually because it's a lower level position that's targeted towards students or recent graduates. If it's targeted towards those individuals, sometimes there's an office policy or an agency policy where they're not going to negotiate with you. The only other reason I could see if there's perhaps budget constraints and they just don't want to do it. So I would consider that. We got a super chat. Let me stop everything and address this. Okay, congrats on 20K. Oh, 20,000 subscribers. Well, hey, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a significant milestone. I'm surprised it's gotten this far. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Marge Civil. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Hey, man, this thing is going crazy. All right, we have Ying TV. How many federal employees DOGE plans to fire? DOGE is the Department of Government Efficiency headed by Vivek and Elon Musk. Nobody knows. What we know about DOGE is it is essentially like a commission. It's not a department in the traditional sense. It's not a federal department. It is a commission. These are advisors. They're going to look at everything from fraud, waste, and abuse across the entire landscape. They will then put together a report, which is highly likely a report. I don't know, 10 pages, 100 pages, whatever it is. It will go on the president's desk. He will review it, and then the president, along with Congress in most situations, then they will go ahead and take a course of action. It could be the extreme. It could be nothing. They'd be like, hey, thanks for the report. And we're going to keep on, pushing forward, keep on moving forward. So everything right now is speculation. When I talk about what will happen under Trump's administration, that's speculation. When the media talks about it, yeah, they're reporting what people are saying, words that are coming out of the mouth, but that's speculation. You don't know anything until the president tries to sign an executive order, and or when Congress, when something is proposed in Congress. And are the Democrats using a filibuster? Do they need a supermajority? Do they need 60 people? We don't know any of that. So in the absence of that information, I encourage most people not to have so much anxiety, so much uncertainty. Focus on what you can control. That's the best thing that you can do when there's times of uncertainty. You look at what you can control. What can I control right now? I can improve my resume. I can improve my skills. I can apply. I can interview. That is what you can control. That is what you focus on. Okay. What else we got here? We got God's favor. Hey, so happy I didn't miss this morning's live stream. I panicked. It's great to have you back in here, God's favor. Good morning. Okay, we have Gus DeMontos. If I worked only 11 months within an agency, not the whole 52 weeks. What's the question? Did I miss part of it? Did it get cut off? Okay, I'm going to jump ahead and try to get to your question. If I worked for an agency for only 11 months, not completing the full 52 weeks under a GS pay grade, I left before my probation ended. How do I address the question if I was a former federal employee? You have an SF-50. How you answer the question is you can mark, yes, I was a federal employee. Now, if they're asking you, do you have 12 months as a GS-11 in order to be eligible for a GS-12? Then the answer is no, you don't have that. Not with the federal government. You could have that with your prior experience. Maybe you worked in the private sector. Maybe you worked at, I don't know, you were working at Chase Bank and you have 2 or 3 years at Chase Bank. So if they say, do you have the equivalent of specialized experience at the GS-11 grade, you can mark yes with that experience, but not as a federal employee. So it depends on how you want to approach it. Do you want to approach the job announcements as you're a federal employee? You were a previous federal employee, so you attach your SF-50? Because you can do that. It really depends on your situation. But yeah, put very simply, you were a federal employee. You should have an SF-50, so you attach it and mark yes. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? We have Matthew again. How will Trump's forthcoming hiring freeze affect my current job search? I'm stuck and I don't know if I can get a new job before the inauguration. Okay, like once again, like I was talking about, is speculation. What he did his first term, there was a hiring freeze. So he was elected, he won the vote, or he won the election in 2016. 2017, there was a hiring freeze. And I think it was 90 days. So what part of that is making a dramatic statement as soon as you enter into office? I think there's a huge part of it, making a huge statement, right? Is he going to do it again? Is that the same playbook? Just because we're in a new administration, does he feel the need to do that again? Maybe, but it is speculation. If a hiring freeze happens, if it's government wide, everything stops. Now, everything stops in the sense that it's paused. So even though maybe you're in the middle of a hiring process with a particular agency, once the freeze is lifted, it can resume from that point. So it could still be worth your while applying right now. Excuse me. Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, here we go with Tyler. Tyler, thank you for joining me this morning. Thank you for the question. I'm coming up on my 52 weeks in my current position. Do I have to ask my supervisor about going up a new step or grade if you're on the latter pay? Do they automatically get you moved up? So, Tyler, what will typically happen with your step is that will be automatically, right? So, the first steps from step 1 to 4, you're talking about 12 months. So, from 1 to 2 is 12, 2 to 3 is 12, 3 to 4 is 12 months. And then after that, it turns into 24 months. And then the last 3 steps turn into 36 months. Your supervisor can try to stop it, but in absence of any action, you will get that step increase. Now, GS grade is a little bit different. If you're in a promotion ladder position, if you're in a position that says this job is from GS9 to GS12, so after 12 months, you're eligible for a promotion to GS11, what I would do in your situation is I would start communicating with my supervisor, and I would have done this the first month. I'd be like, "Hey, listen to me, whoever you are. Let's just call him Bob. Hey, Bob, my goal is to get GS11. I want to earn GS11 at my 12-month mark. What do I have to do? Lay out the expectations so I can go ahead and follow that. And at any point, if I'm deviating, let me know because I'm trying to get there. That's my goal. Let's work. Hey, let's work as a team, me and you. Let's figure this out so that I can get promoted at my 12-month mark. If you communicate that, I think it will increase your chances. Your supervisor will look at it and say, okay, this individual is ambitious. This guy is using some forethought. This guy is trying, to improve and make my life easier because he wants to follow the plan. And then when your 12-month mark hits, you should be able to get it, right? What ends up happening, I would say 90% of the time, is nobody says anything. The individual, the employee, they don't communicate with their supervisor. They come to work every day and they're at their computer. And then the 12-month mark hits and they're so confused on why they didn't get their promotion. So communication is key. Have the expectations laid out. And most supervisors will do a semi-annual performance review. So you'll have a chance at the midway mark to see if you're on track. All right. We have Gail. Gail, good morning. Gail asked, I applied for superior qualifications when negotiating via email to human resources. It was ignored? Question. Then I tried again, no response. What next? So for me, my first question is, how did you try to do it? Did you do it by attaching the memo? Did you attach a memo and make a compelling case on why you were superiorly qualified? If you did you just reply to this human resource specialist or did you reply to all? A lot of times, people are always coming in and out with sick leave, with this leave, unexpected, this, that, and the other. A lot of times, what you really should do is reply to all if there's other people on the to line. And then if you're not getting anything, I would probably follow up at least once a week until somebody can give you some sort of closure. Like, hey, yes, we can do that. Or maybe it's, we decided to cancel the position or move to a different candidate. Normally, 99% of the time, if you try to negotiate once, they're not going to do anything with your offer. They'll either say yes or no. It's when the person keeps trying to negotiate where they'll pull the job offer and they'll go with their next up, the second best person. So I would follow up in that situation. All right, Shimp, Happy New Year. Thank you so much. All right, well, we have BW. My position was remote before COVID. If DOGE is successful in mandating a return to office, would I be affected? I live 200 miles away from my office. So speculation once again, I don't think that you're going to be affected in the near term at all, right? And the same thing with people with reasonable accommodations. So reasonable accommodations, that law exists for a reason. And if it has been determined that for medical reasons you cannot come into the office, but you can still perform the job and the task remotely, I believe those are the last people that will be impacted. Okay. Next question. Leonardo. Good morning, Leonardo. Hello, thank you for the videos. Quick question. I'm currently on my 4th month with the Veteran Affairs and still on probation. What questions should I be asking my supervisor? Leonardo, you should still be on probation. There's nothing wrong with that. You should be on probation all the way up to your 12-month mark. And then after that, you'll probably get a new SF50, and that will reflect that you're no longer on probation. The questions that you should be asking your supervisor is, this is what you do. You go over there, knock on the door, send them an email, ask them for a block of time, schedule a call, and say, hey, listen, I want to be successful in my role. What are your expectations? I want to exceed expectations in this position for this office. What are the expectations? Now, most supervisors are going to be like, well, we got a lot going on. We just need someone to react quickly and communicate with the team. Whatever it is, try to distill it down to 2 or 3 main points and write it down. Like, is this high risk report, is that the priority? If it is, that's where most of your time should be. Is your priority to get trained up on a specific system? It's all about expectation management and communication. Okay, BW. I was just hired as a GS13/GS14 position. Congratulations on the job. They put me at GS13 step 10. When would I be eligible for GS14? What step would I be once I'm promoted? So you're eligible after 12 months. So if you were just hired December, so December of 2025 is when you're eligible to be a GS14. The 2-step promotion rule will come into effect. Let's go ahead and slap this on here. Hey, if you didn't realize it already, the President Biden signed the executive order in order to approve the pay raise. Pay raise is only 2% on average, roughly. So in the DC area, what we got is 2.22. So depending on your area, I think the lowest locality was Cleveland. I think 1.7% is what went out to Cleveland. San Francisco, I think, is a little bit higher. So you're a GS 13 step 10. So let's say you make 156,000 a year right now. What happens is the 2-step promotion rule happens. So you have to look on the pay chart where GS 14 exceeds this. So that is right here. So step 5 is where it exceeds it. So you add 2 steps. You should be coming in, I would say, GS 14 step 7. So you would go from 156,000 a year to 170,000 a year. That would represent about a $14,000 a year pay raise. And you could see that in December. So that's going to be good for you. All right, let's get that down. All right. What else? Okay. We have Gail again. What is the most direct way to get SF50s from prior Fed employers? I think the most direct way is just contact a human resource office. I don't know how long it has been, or what's the purpose. Have you separated from the federal government for a prolonged period of time? I would contact the HR office. One of the first steps you could do is contact the help desk for the agency, find the HR office, contact them, and see if they still have the records. It really depends, because there's another way that you could do it where you're requesting it from like OMB, from the hub of the federal government HR. But if it wasn't too long ago that you separated, I would probably just check with the agency. Next question, Clinton. What are some good questions to ask during the interview? I usually ask the panel what they envision as success within the role, but are there any other good questions? Clinton, good questions. Good questions are questions that show that you're not thinking about yourself. Like, questions that you're thinking about yourself is like promotion potential, the pay, telework policy. That means you're thinking about yourself. If you ask questions that you're thinking about the organization, here's one. What what would you say is the pain point in your organization right now? That makes the supervisor think, well, how, we're understaffed and our systems are outdated and, we can't communicate with the ninth floor for some reason. So it shows that you're more focused on them. And by demonstrating that and also demonstrating curiosity, you're going to score more points on average, I would say. So, yeah, asking them what is successful for this position for the first 3 to 6 months. What do you envision? That's a good question. You know, what's the current culture of your office? It could also be a good question. So I would think of things like that. But I would probably go in there. I would have like 4 or 5 written up, and then make sure that you have them practice and they're refined. And then based on how I'm feeling during the interview, then I would go ahead and give them the ones I feel that are the most appropriate. Okay, what do we have here? Staten. Good morning. I know someone who was offered $330,000 at the Department of Treasury in the OR operational research series because her current pay was over the pay band. Is there an exception more than the rule? Is this the exception? So, yeah, when you are operating within a pay band, you have a limit. But there's different pay bands within the federal government. There are pay bands. Look at the Veteran Affairs. There are people that are paid over $400,000 a year because they're a surgeon. There are people that are paid highly in FDIC. It goes up to 250 or a little bit above $250,000 a year. The Security Exchange Commission, the FAA goes over $200,000 a year. So these different pay bands exist so that they can pay more, and as a result, perhaps attract better talent because of their experience, because of their skills and abilities. So yeah, I don't know what that position was. You said it was in the operational research series, so perhaps there was an exception in order to get her higher pay. But that's a nice salary. Okay. God's favor. How many times are you evaluated while on probation? Does it depend on the agency and supervisor? Yes, it depends dramatically on the agency. Do they have an internal policy in order to do reviews? There are some agencies out there they don't do formal reviews to see if you have acceptable performance. And then what is your supervisor like? There are some supervisors that are counting the there are some supervisors that are counting the months to retirement, and they're not necessarily concerned whether the new person in the office is meeting the standards when it comes to probation. What we usually see throughout the entire government, I would say, is probably over 90% of people are successfully able to make it out of probation. And even sometimes when people are showing up late, you show up late 3 or 4 times and they're still able to make it out of probation. But once again, it comes down to the culture of that office. If you're working in DOD and you're really close to like field grade or general grade officers at the Pentagon, they're going to take you showing up late a completely different way than if you were working at the Department of Agriculture. They're going to look at it differently because of their culture. So it's another thing that you want to consider. But there is not usually a formal process where they're saying, "Hey, this is your review for probation." It's just you getting across that 12-month mark. Okay. All right. Let's see. We have San Mar. Are there any roles besides those in the Department of Education that would be a good fit for those of us who are school leaders with a background in special education? San Mar, because you're a school leader, you know how to develop curriculum. You know how to deliver a block of instructions. So yeah, there's a lot of agencies. Here, let's just take a look real quick for you. Let's pop this up. Look over here. If I were in education, and at some point in my career I was in education. I actually taught military leadership at a university in North Carolina. So when you go here, go down to 1700, that's education, and just click on it. So now we have everything in education covered. That's 700 jobs. But I'm going to assume that you are only open to the public. You have no special hiring path. So that brings it down to 480. So where are these jobs located? Let's look at it from an agency perspective since you brought up that question. We'll go here to department and agency. So the Department of Air Force has 88 education jobs. Department of Army has close to 200. HHS, Health and Human Services, they only have one. The Homeland Security has 11. Department of Justice has 13. Navy. So a lot of DOD A lot of DoD agencies like Navy, Army, and Air Force, they have the bulk of education jobs, but you can still find it like Department of Interior. This could be park ranger instruction or something like that. So yeah, that's where I would go. I would start here. I would explore here. Put your zip code in if you want like really specialized. If you want a very narrow focus on what makes sense for you, put your zip code in. Here, let's just put any old zip code in. So in the DC area, there's 28 education jobs. This one right here is for substitute. You know where you can find some substitute positions or some like elementary school or even special needs is if you look at the military bases overseas. Like if you wanted to go to Spain, Rota, Spain, they have an education center there for soldiers and service members that are stationed for their kids to get educated. Same thing in Italy, same thing in Japan, same thing in South Korea. So these positions exist. But I would also tell you, hey, don't limit yourself to 1700 because you're probably eligible for different job series aside from education, you know? So there you go. What else? Clarice, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Clarice. All right. We have Ebo. I need assistance revising my current resume. I'm currently a GS11-0301 job series and I'm looking for a job in HR. So, I'm assuming that you're looking for a GS11 in the 0200 series, which is HR, or you're looking for a GS12. It's going to be difficult to come into HR as a GS12 or even as a GS11 unless you've had relevant experience doing federal HR. So even though you're a 0301, you might have been exposed to HR. So if that's the case, no problem. You can do it. But if you've been to 0301 focusing on admin that has nothing to do with HR, you're going to have a challenge in front of you. As far as your resume, there's some example resumes in the links in the description so you can check that out. And I've done, plenty of videos on resumes, but I do offer a service where I will edit your resume. If you don't have the time or you don't want to do it for whatever reason, there's a course option down in the description below. You can check that out and I'll edit it for you, which is right now it's like a 3 or 4 day turnaround. So that is for that one. Damien, making it out of probation is not that hard in the USDA. Agreed. Okay. Then we have Gus, the Mad Toast, direct hiring over public trust equals SF85 positions are the most effective way to secure a job faster. Would you agree? I would say, generally speaking, direct hire can be faster. And another indicator of speed, if you're after speed, if they have a recruitment incentive, if they have a retention incentive within the position that's already built in, that means that they're trying to attract, they're trying to lure. They're just not throwing the position out there for no reason. They're willing to pay more money just to get the right person in the position. That means they probably need that person. So there could be more urgency. So I would look at that as well. Okay. What do we got? Clinton again. My next interview closed on USAJobs in July. Your next interview? Is this a normal time frame or should I be worried about this much backlog? So I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Let me take a sip. The last 3 weeks have been a period of uncertainty. So a lot of people thought the government was going to shut down. I think it was December 21st, the Friday before Christmas. There was a general idea that the government was going to shut down, so much so that a lot of federal agencies were emailing their employees saying, hey, listen, this is what you're going to do during a shutdown. Make sure you keep your computer closed. Don't log in. Do that, complete your time card, all this other stuff. That impacted hiring actions. The appetite for certain agencies to want to do hiring actions, it was reduced because leading up to the continuing resolution, to the potential government shutdown, there's a lot of uncertainty. So there's probably still uncertainty until we get past January 20th. There's probably going to still be a certain degree of uncertainty. But right now, the budgets are set until March. So between now and March, agencies know how much money they have to use for everything, to include hiring. So it could be slow. I say all that to say, yeah, you've been waiting since July. I'm still confused in the word that you use. You said my next interview close. Did you mean to say job announcement? I think that would make more sense. If you already went on an interview, then it's on you. Every 3 weeks, you need to email that individual who scheduled the interview and follow up and ask them for a status update. Okay. All right. What else do we have? We have Damien. Keep applying, people. I managed to get a tentative job offer this year for a GS-15 position. Well, congratulations on your GS-15. That's exciting news. What else do we have? We have Gupta. How long to complete a SF-85P? Already face-to-face interview. So you've done the face-to-face interview. For these, it's so dependent on your unique situation. But what I normally see is no longer than 12 months. So I would say probably anywhere between 9 to 12 months on the long end. And it shouldn't go past that. If you're waiting for your SF-85 to clear, I would also ask them the question, can I start working with an interim clearance? I don't know if you're already working or not, but I know a guy recently got hired at the Pentagon. He's still waiting for his clearance to be finished, and he's working. He was able to start working, a few weeks after the tentative job offer because they did an initial background check and nothing came back. So while he's waiting for his investigation to complete, he is still going to the Pentagon 3 days a week because he's able to telework twice a week, and he's still able to do that. So ask HR, ask the hiring manager if that's a possibility in your situation if you are not already working at the agency. All right. Malcolm Davis, legal assistant with the Social Security Administration, and I feel stuck. You're not alone, Malcolm. A lot of people in the SSA feel stuck. The only positive right now is telework. Well, that's great. Yeah. What you need to do is you have two options, right? You can look for positions within your current agency and use the internal pathway. So on USAJobs.gov, there's an internal pathway. You can use that to your advantage, or you can look at other agencies. And you're just not stuck. I think you're a 0900 because you're legal. You're not just stuck with legal. You're a legal assistant, which means administrative, which means you can be a 0301 or a 0341 or a lot of different job series. So you just, refine, focus in on your job search, and then you can make the jump. People make the jump every day. Okay, what else do we have? We have Neil. I'm a retired Chief Warrant Officer 5, unmanned aircraft system technician, worked at the 2 to 4 star level. Applied for a GS-13 UAS officer and deemed not qualified. What did I do wrong? Okay, 9 times out of 10, this is what happened that was wrong. You are highly qualified. You have the experience, you have the abilities. That's not a question. What is preventing you from getting referred? It's usually a couple of things. The first thing, were you eligible to apply for that job? Because if you're not under the area of consideration, doesn't matter how qualified you are, you're not getting the job. You're not going to be deemed qualified. The second thing, which is more common, your resume wasn't competitively structured. So there is a disconnect between a person and a resume. So we all know what we have done because we've been living with each other. You've been living your life. Nobody knows probably as well as you know. But that's not enough because the document has to convey that. And if the document's not doing a good enough job conveying that, you're never going to be found qualified. Regardless if in reality you are qualified, it doesn't matter. There are people that have 30 years of experience and they're applying for a GS6 and they're getting rejected over and over and over. And I look at their resume and it's clear while they're getting rejected. They have a 4-year job position and they have 2 sentences and neither of them are achievements. It's so clear while they're getting rejected. They're not getting referred. Then you have other people. This lady I helped, she's never been paid a day in her life for working a job, but she has volunteer experience and she comes in as a GS9. How does that make sense? All she's done is volunteer for a few years and she gets a GS9, but we have a 30-year professional that can't come in as a GS6. The main difference between those two stories is one word: resume. Relook the resume, improve the resume. And you're a retired, okay, so you're a retired chief warrant officer. You probably have a service-connected disability, so you have other options. You don't have to apply like everybody else. You can use a veteran service coordinator and try to get in, through the back door, so to speak. You can try that. But yeah, I think the only gap really missing right now is just an information gap. Okay. Yeah, that's true. I arrive, man. Too many people interview fine but don't perform. Yeah, that's true in everything though, not just in federal government. That's pretty much, any industry, any sector. Okay, what else do we have? We have sunscreen extreme. Good morning. Does a signed statement of service allow an active duty military member to apply to the veterans hiring path or just the federal employee hiring path? That's a good question. All right. The statement of service, what you see on a statement of service is you're going to see the awards that an individual has earned. So that in itself, like if you have a deployment where you were awarded a campaign badge, your statement of service will give you the +5, or it could make you eligible for VRA. So VRA is if you have a service connected disability or if you have a campaign badge. You don't know your disability rating because you're active duty. So throw that out there. You're not getting +10, but you could get +5. So it will give you potentially VRA and also VEOA. And that's what you're alluding to when you say just federal hiring path jobs. That means VEOA for veterans is if you complete 3 years of military service and you have an honorable or other than honorable discharge, you can apply as if you were a federal employee. So most competitive service jobs, you're able to apply to them. You're able to do that with a statement of service. And you can even get +5 if you have a campaign badge, which should be listed on your statement of service. So that's going to be your replacement for a DD 214 until you actually get your DD 214. Once you get service connected disability, you upload the SF-15 and the VA disability letter that will unlock the +10 and also 30% plus disability non competitive hiring authority. Man, that sounds like a mouthful, but hopefully that made sense. All right, let's see. What do we have? Matthew, I've been applying daily and been referred to several positions which are direct hire, open, continuous. I haven't seen an interview. Should I be concerned? Am I missing the mark? To answer the question, are you missing the mark? I would suggest apply for 3 months for the jobs that have closed. Because when you're applying to jobs, not all of them have closed yet, because some of them are continuous, right? So, what you're aiming to get is a 50% referral rate. If you apply 100 times, are you getting at least 50 referred? If you're not, that's a clear resume problem. So let's say you're getting 50 or 60. I've met people that get 80% referred. So let's say you're getting over 50% referred. At that point, are at least 20% of your referrals turning into interviews? If not, that is a clear resume problem. So it is either a resume problem or it's a job series problem. You could be stuck in a job series. You're like, hey, you know, let's say, for example, I don't know, let's 0200, right? This actually happens quite often. Someone's like, human resources, human resources. I have a bachelor's degree in human resources. I have a certificate in human resources. I want to do human resources. That's it. So they just look at 0200, 0200 all day long for 3 months and they apply, and nothing ever happens. And that's because they have no federal HR experience and they're applying at GS 11 or higher. So in that case, the problem wasn't their resume. The problem was their job series. They weren't focused on the right job series. So you have to dial in your focus, where you're at. Are you looking at just one? Are you looking at two or three? Do you have different resumes for that? So first, what job series are you targeting? Maybe you reevaluate that. That's why you have a low referral rate. That's why you have a low interview rate. Then after that, I would say it's probably a resume problem. Okay. All right. What else do we have? Okay, Dana Cooper, nice to see you again in here. Dana, thank you for joining me. Explain the difference between a 6 month roster and continuous. So it could be called a roster, 12 month, 6 month, 9 month roster, or it could be considered or called public notice, or it could have no name. But usually you'll see roster, public notice, or no name. And what you're really looking for is you're looking for the time span. Is it 6, 9, 12 months? And does it say that they will continuously evaluate candidates? That's what you're looking for. That's what you want. You want them to continuously pull from the list in order to evaluate candidates because that represents the best use of your time. You spent 20, 30 minutes applying for this job and they're going to consider you 15 times potentially. So you didn't have to apply 15 times, but you're still being evaluated 15 times. That's why I encourage people to always apply to the roster positions or the public notice or the ones that are open for large time spans. But it just comes down to reading the announcement. All of them generally say the same thing, whether it's 3, 6, 9, or 12. They're saying that they're going to continuously pull and evaluate applicants. And those are the job announcements that are more likely to share the certificate. They're going to share your application. So if you're found best qualified, they're going to take that list and they're going to share it with other agencies, or they'll even share it with other offices within the agency. So that's good. All right. What do we got here? We have Maria. I'm thinking of retiring from the Federal Bureau of Prisons due to after working for 17 years and not getting promoted. If I want another federal job, how will that affect my retirement benefits? So Maria, listen, in it's it's really interesting to hear this because you stayed at a position for 17 years and you were never promoted. The first question is, was there a promotion ladder built into your position? And I'm going to guess there wasn't, because after 17 years, at some point in time, somebody should have told you, hey, listen, this is why you're not getting promoted. So in the absence of a promotion ladder, it is on you to apply for your promotion. And that means oftentimes applying to another office within the Federal Bureau of Prisons, or another division within the Bureau of Prisons, or another agency entirely. A lot of people are very skeptical to work for the Bureau of Prisons because they consistently rank as the lowest ranked agency in the entire federal government, considering all 400 agencies. So, have you applied to other agencies to get your promotion? Now, as far as if you retire, like you retire and you start drawing furs, can you jump back in? Yeah, you can jump back in, but there is going to be a rule that takes place. I'm not going to be able to talk it. I would have to research and talk about it, but there are stipulations that you should research before doing that. But in your situation, what I would explore is applying for my promotion in another agency. I think that's your best course of action. Okay, potato snacks. That sounds good. What are steps you could take as a student going into the healthcare portion of the VA? As a student, the first thing you should do is look at the student path. I assume that you know that, but I'm going to just say pretend like you don't. You go to USAJobs. You click search. You go to hiring path. You see this student. There's 187 student positions. What this is essentially, this is an internship. So if you want one with the VA, you go to students. You go to department and agency, and you go to the Veteran Affairs. And there's 8 positions right now that are open to students. So depending on what your background is, what your degree program is going to depend on what you want to target here. Now, as you see, most of these are paid, but there are some that are not paid, so you should keep that in your mind, right? This one here is 44,000 a year, 55,000 a year. This is probably, my goodness, this is 150,000. This goes up to, this is a GS-15, and they're open to students. This is not an internship. Then this is probably miscategorized. Okay, this one doesn't have anything. There's $0. This means they want you to work as a student trainee, and they're going to give you a grand total of nothing. So maybe don't do that, or just depends, right? This is a medical health student trainee, so you can apply to that. This is Indianapolis. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Indianapolis. It's kind of cold out there. Okay, so that's your first start. And then you look through there, look at specialized experience, format your resume, get it competitive, apply, continue to do that. And the internship will eventually, you'll get accepted to one. Okay. What do we got? Got a new member, DKT 4377. Thank you for joining. What do we have here? Data is king. I have been referred to the hiring manager and never heard back. 5 years prior service. I am a GS-11 step 4. I have a master's in data analytics, going back to school for an educational specialist degree. Data is king. I don't think you need to go back to school unless it's a personal ambition. If you have a burning fire, like, hey, I really want to get this degree in education. If that's not true, that's not going to unlock better jobs for you. What's going to unlock better jobs for you is your resume, and targeting the right jobs. You have a master's in data analytics. Have you applied to the 1500 job series? This is what I would do, data. This is what I would do. So check this out. Let me get rid of these filters. If you have a master's in data analytics, the first thing I would look at is the 15, probably 1560. Let's go there. Not many people apply for this. You see this right here, 1560, data science. There's 7 jobs. There are not many people applying for these positions because most of them have a hard educational requirement, and most people do not have the specific education. So for this one, they want you to have a degree in engineering. So that's not going to be you. But there are some that want you to have a degree in computer science or data, like you see right here. It says you need to have a bachelor's degree in the appropriate field, such as computer science, or so many semester hours when it comes to operations research or computer science classes. So if you're a data, if you're holding a data, what is it? Data analytics degree, I would look at 1560. Some of these positions also have recruitment incentives because it's hard to get the right people in the right positions. So look at that. And then I'm really curious, what job series are you in? Because with that education, your prior service, if we were talking on a call right now, I would ask you, about your military service. Are you eligible for VRA? Are you eligible for 30% disability? Do you have a service connected disability? What job series are you in? Have you looked at 0343, which is program analyst, management analyst? Have you looked at 1560? Have you looked at 2210? Where are you located? Are you open to relocate? So these are some of the questions I would be asking. And I tell you what, at the end of our call, the answer would not be to go back to school for an education degree. That would not be the answer. Okay. Let me get this down because this thing just stays up. Get that banner down. Okay. What else we have here? All right. Green Logbook. Armand, let's connect. I would like to have your expertise on the military retirement podcast. Yeah, shoot me an email or add me on LinkedIn and we can definitely talk about it. What else we have? Good morning. Victor, good morning. Can I apply within the same agency for a higher pay grade? Yes. If it's open to the public, yes. The new job is a GS9 and I'm a GS6. Whom has 1 year of probation left of my first 2 years? Okay. Probation doesn't matter in this scenario. Probation doesn't matter. What matters is the job is open to the public and you have the relevant necessary experience in order to compete for that job. You will not be competing for that job as a federal employee. Because if you're competing as a federal employee, HR is going to be looking at your SF50 and they're going to be like, wait a minute, Victor is only a GS6. Victor doesn't have time and grade. Let's go ahead and mark him ineligible and go to the next one. You're not trying to do that. You're trying to compete as a member of the public using your prior government experience. So the answer is yes, you can do that. And I encourage you to do it. Next question. Kenny, good morning. I'm still waiting for OCHR to release the US job vacancy announcement to clear military spouse and VEOA applicants. What does this mean? Is the job announcement published? Is it currently on USAJobs.gov? Or are you talking with a coordinator who's anticipating a job announcement to be published and it is not yet published? That's my impression by reading what you have written, what you wrote. Good morning, Frenchie's mom. That's a regular. Frenchie's mom's always a regular in here. I just got hired with the DE. Hey, congratulations on your job. Super exciting, especially with the new year coming up. Oh, okay. Next question, Matthew. I am a 08. Okay, so you're an engineer. You're a civil engineer. GS12 for construction contract admin with outstanding performance evaluations, a bachelor's in civil engineering. I do not have my PE license. My referrals are 50% or better. I feel like I've stalled. There's no way up. Okay, so you're not limited to engineering, but what does your job filters look like? Are you looking at 0801? 0801 is like typically a catch-all. It's like general engineering. So don't just focus on the job series that you're currently in. And could you do program management? I mean, you've done construction. I would have to look at your resume. What type of work have you actually done? Have you managed a program before? Because 0340 is program management. There's other job series. If you're willing, I don't know where you're located, but yeah, if you're willing to relocate, there's so much opportunity and possibilities for you. But I would re-examine your focus for job series and re-examine how your resume looks. It looks like you're getting 50% or better on referrals. How many applications did you apply? So what does 50% or better mean in context to the amount that you've been applying? So you can apply 8 times and get 4 referrals, and someone can say, I got 50%. Have you applied more than a few dozen times? That would be revealing. That would paint a different picture. Okay, next question. Fatherhood. I would love to hear about advancement above GS 15. The ST technical executive positions and how to achieve it. For context, I'm maxed out GS 15, 24 years of IT cyber experience. You're a GS 15, so I would first take advantage and look at the SES programs your agency might be offering. A lot of agencies, they push out information. If you're a GS 14 or GS 15, they push out the information like, hey, we're having this program open up to prepare people to be executives. You have to have your supervisor's approval, and it kind of pulls you out of the office for a while. So, I don't know if your supervisor is going to be on board with that, but it's something that you could join, and then they give you a mentor, and there's like a three month program where they're kind of priming you. They're teaching you how to do the EQLs. They're training you on how to give you the best shot of becoming an executive. You still have to apply for it. A lot of it comes down to writing. So you have to write, an additional 10 pages on top of your resume. And it could even be more than that. So there's a different strategy and technique when you're trying to compete for executive positions, but really it comes down to writing. Just like the resume is often the linchpin on whether or not you're going to get hired into a position, the same thing goes to a greater extent for executive positions. Okay. What else do we have? We have EB. Oh, I have a master's degree in HR and cannot get referred for the GS 11 or GS 12. It's ridiculous. Do jobs require a PhD if using education? Yeah, if that's a huge thing, right? If using education only, then yeah, you need a PhD for a GS 11. But over 90% of GS 11s are walking around with no PhD, and a lot of times, most of them, they don't even have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree because you don't need any education for most government jobs at the GS 11 level. This is just some antiquated rule where they say if you have absolutely no experience and you're applying on education alone, you need a PhD, and it throws so many people off. So you have a master's degree in HR. That means if you have no federal HR experience, your expectation should be GS9. If you have federal HR experience, then you could go higher. Once again, depends on your situation. Okay. Frenchie's mom. Hi, I just got hired as a field representative, 180 days intermittent with the Department of Commerce. Can I still apply and accept a higher pay grade as soon as I start, or do I wait a year? You can always apply to open to the public, or you can always leverage non competitive hiring authorities in order to get a higher grade based on non government experience. That's always the case. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do one last one here. We're going to jump into some of the previously submitted ones so I don't forget those guys. SK, my daughter graduated with a master in science and cybersecurity. Are there any entry level positions since most require experience? Entry level. Okay. So, first thing I would say with your daughter, has she used these cybersecurity skills in an internship? Has she used them volunteering for the city, the state, the school, the church? Because if she's done that, then I would encourage her to put that on her resume. It's not to go through an educational program and not volunteer to use those skills. You haven't had any application of those skills. I think that's more unusual today when you're going through a lot of these programs. A lot of them send you through internships. But if she has none, to give you the literal answer to your question, what I would do, let me bring this up. That was already up. Okay. So you're looking for, what are you looking for? Entry level? Entry level, you're looking for recent student graduate is what you're looking for. So on USAJobs.gov for cybersecurity, Here's another thing. Even though your degree is in cybersecurity, maybe cybersecurity has some overlap when it comes to infosec because information security and cybersecurity, secure is the operative word here, security. So if you have volunteer experience or internship in cybersecurity, some of that can be counted towards infosec. Infosec is 2210. But let's look over here. Let's look at no. Okay, you see mission critical career field. This is where you're going to actually see cybersecurity. It's its own category here. Most of these will be 2210. Some of them will be 1500, I would imagine. And then let's go look at the hiring path to see if any of these are open to students or recent graduates. Recent graduates. If she's already graduated, you're not looking at students anymore. Okay, so there's nothing open right now under this cybersecurity. So that would be my first look, and that gave us a big goose egg. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of cybersecurity, and we're just going to go to 2210 because cybersecurity means, you know, the macro version of that would be IT in general, right? So 2210. We've got trainee positions. Now we'll go up to recent graduate. Okay, there's two. So these are the two. We have one in the Department of Air Force. This is an IT specialist. This would be a recent student graduate position. So at the GS7 level, they wouldn't expect you to have that much experience for this. This one's probably a little bit more. This app SW, this is like application software. So this might be geared more towards somebody that has familiarity with programming, but this is even a lower position. This is recent student if she wanted to go to New Orleans. You could target these two, but you can also target recent student graduate outside of IT. I know her degree's in IT, but you can look at maybe her any type of work experience, any type of internship, and see what you can pull from there and align it with a better job series. Or you could just aim much lower. You can look at GS5, GS4. It depends on your location. Where is she willing to move? Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that, and let's go to the previously submitted questions. Where are we at with that? Here we go. Next question is from Invino, who asks, if when federal government jobs are moved away from the swamp, will federal workers displaced relocated have the option for free or discounted housing at other states? No, that doesn't make any sense. In no situation do I see any free housing. The best case scenario is a relocation incentive, which is 25% of your base pay, but maybe not even that. I think if people are forced to relocate, a good percentage of them are just not going to do it. Like if you're talking about DC, right? So if you tell someone in DC, hey, you have to relocate to Iowa, the chance there's more jobs in DC. Why wouldn't they just apply and transfer to a different agency instead of going all the way to Iowa? What's probably going to happen is people are going to go to other agencies. There's going to be attrition. Maybe they'll hire at that new state if they're authorized, or they'll just shrink. The agency will shrink. All right, next question. Do some federal government jobs offer regular day off? If they do, how does that work? Yes, they do. This is what's typically referred to as a compressed work schedule. There are federal employees that work 4 10-hour days, and that allows them to have a 3-day weekend every single weekend of the year. There's usually a Friday or a Monday. That's what makes the 3-day weekend. So you can, in a lot of agencies with supervisor approval, you can do 4 10-hour shifts. You can also do something where you're working 9 hours a day. So every other weekend can be a 3-day. So every other weekend you receive an extra day off because you're putting in 9 hours a day for 9 days. So that's a possibility as well. And outside of that, you have your regular 40 hour a week schedule. There's also flexible work schedules where you're shifting the time that you're actually working. So that exists as well. But yeah, good question. Next question. Does the new GS pay scale kick in regardless of when you were hired? I received my tentative job offer on the 19th of December, but I'm expected to start after the 1st of January. Yes, everyone who's on the GS pay band starting in the new year, starting in January, will start receiving the pay increase, which is roughly 2%, 2.2% if you live in Washington, D.C. You will be receiving that. It doesn't matter what your job offer says in 2024, 2025, that's the pay that you will be receiving. Now, if you're on the WG, if you're in the federal work, if you're in the federal wage schedule, which is WS, WG, or WL, they do not receive their pay raises until the summertime, usually. But GS employees will receive the pay raise in the beginning of January. All right, good question. And hey, this is a good time to mention if you're looking for federal hiring events, they haven't been that much in the last couple of weeks because of the holidays, but really starting the first week of January and moving forward, agencies are going to be doing a lot more hiring events, a lot more informational sessions where you can connect with an HR professional, you can connect with a hiring manager in some cases, especially with the Department of Homeland Security. If you want me to email that to you, I email it out every Thursday. I can email it to you as well if you sign up to the free newsletter down below. And if the link isn't down there, I'm going to put the link there after this stream is done. So the stream will stay up and the link will be there after it's done. Okay, good. Let's check out any other comments we might have. Thank you, Armand. You're welcome. Mohammed, hi, Armand. Can I work part-time, a federal job, besides my full-time job as a federal job? So for that, I would say probably not. But you can always check with HR and ask them that question. But I don't think you're going to be able to that because your part-time commitment for a federal job is going to be what is it going to be? What probably at least 20 hours, and then full-time is 40 hours. You know, hypothetically, it could be possible if the time that you're working is outside of the time that you're working for the first job. So it could be possible, but my first instinct would be to say no. And my second thing is ask HR. Clinton, I do love the pay scale. Can't hide who's getting paid what. Universal knowledge. That's true. Okay. Let's go back to the previously submitted questions. And what do we have next? We have something from Medina. Medina. I recently started a remote GS-13 accountant position with the Veteran Affairs, headquartered in Austin, Texas. With the possibility of the new administration making changes to remote work policies, I'm considering whether I should start looking into local job opportunities now or wait. So, as a remote work accountant for the Veteran Affairs, you're not the primary target. So, I think you're going to be fine. But what I would encourage everyone to do, really, regardless of your situation, regardless of where you're at or what job you have, I would ask myself, what would happen if there were a riff? If I were laid off, what would happen? Where would I go? Would I go to my state government and look for opportunities there? Is there anything that aligns with your state government or your county government, or maybe private companies? If you're in Austin, there's a lot of private companies in Austin. What lines up with you being an accountant? Who is looking for accountant work? This is a great time to expand your network. Get on LinkedIn and see who works for those big companies in Austin. Develop a connection because the time to panic and worry is not once you receive the layoff notice, right? You want to get ahead of all of that. You want to have a contingency plan. Always in life, you want to have a contingency plan. So, okay, next question. Let's take that down. All right, that's down. Next question. Elder Bubby ask, what should veterans try to negotiate after a temporary job offer? You can only negotiate three things after a tentative job offer. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or a non veteran. Number one is your step level. Number two is your leave accrual rate. And number three is your start date. So after the final job offer or before the final job offer, HR will say, hey, what about starting January 14th? And this is based on the pay is based on the pay schedule, right? So they'll say, what about this date? Does that work? If not that date, they'll bring you into another date. Usually it's a Sunday officially. That's the date they bring you on. So you can negotiate that if you have vacation scheduled, if you have other things going on, you want to finish up at your current job, you can always negotiate your start date, which is the EOD, which is the entrance on duty. Next question is Sonic, the Sonic who asks, how far ahead of being employed should you start submitting resumes? I won't be personally ready to start working for a year. The answer to this is 4 to 6 months. If you're confident in your resume, if you know the federal hiring process and you're comfortable, I would say 4 months. If you don't know what you're doing and it's going to be a learning process, trial and error, I would say 6 months. But in between there, the average time to hire in the federal government for 2024 was 100 days. So over 3 months, between 3 and 4 months. So that's the guidelines I would give you. If you're not eligible to work, you said a year. So next December. So maybe start applying in September or maybe even, June, July. August, I would say August, September at the latest if you're trying to work in December. A lot of variables go into that. Next question. All right, let's go. We're going to get right back into these questions. But first, hey, if you haven't picked up a copy of the Government Job Secrets, if you want an example resume, it's in this book, not in the audio book. It's actually in this book. If you want the success stories, if you want the formula in order to get more referrals and interviews, it's all in this book. Go ahead and grab a copy. It's on Amazon. There is the audio book. If you want me to read it, I spent a few days actually reading word for word on this microphone in order to bring that to people who do not like reading books. If they just like listening to books, then I'll read it to you. So check that out. That should be down in the description as well. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible. Okay, now let's jump into these questions. What do we have? We have, I can't say your name, so I'm just going to call you BD. I've been offered a GS13 step 1 position, but currently make 20,000 more as a contractor. I'm worried about the 1-year probation. Should I take the job or stay? All I can do is give you my recommendation. I wouldn't be worried about probation. I would be worried about step 1 because you're taking a pay cut and it's actually more than 20K. You just don't realize that yet. Excuse me. Your pay cut is more than 20K because there's a 4.4% deduction for your pension. It's called a FERS deduction. So you have to calculate that as well. GS13 step 1, you need to negotiate. Get that up there to step 5 or step 6 so you're not taking a pay cut. That's the first thing. Second thing, you're going to pass probation. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about that. Do the right thing. Show up willing to learn with a positive attitude. Probation is not going to be a big deal for you. So this could be an opportunity for you. How old are you? What do you value? Do you want a pension? After 5 years, let's say you take the job, you start in 2025. By 2030, you have a guaranteed pension. You have a guaranteed pension for the rest of your life. Do you value that? It's worth something. So in your situation, depending on where you're at financially, I would take the government job, but I would first try to negotiate the salary. Victor, thank you so much. Hey, thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. No problem. What do we have here? Freedom Creek, great session this morning. Are there any United States USG agencies which look to fill InfoSec positions, especially remote, but do not use USAJobs.gov? There are some agencies that do not use USAJobs.gov. I made a video on that. So if you search my channel for, I guess, USA Jobs, if you type in USA Jobs, you'll find a video. I mentioned 5 different agencies that do not. One of them, so one of the organizations that do not use USA Jobs a lot is the Senate. The Senate doesn't use it very much. They use, some of them use it a little bit, but more often than not, you have to go to their actual webpage to find their jobs. And the reason they're able to do that is a lot of those jobs are in the accepted service. And for most government jobs that are in the accepted service, there's no obligation to publicly advertise them on usajobs.gov. Okay. We got Palucha Tomo. I messed that name all up. Hello. I've accepted my final job offer as an intermittent GS9 remote SBA step 1. I haven't started or received an EOD yet. If I receive another offer before EOD, will I be able to negotiate the step level still? Yes, you're not a federal employee yet because you do not have an SF50. So you are not a federal employee. And because you are not a federal employee, if you get another job offer, you can negotiate. So definitely do that. And let's say you're expecting a job offer because you did really good on an interview, you can prolong your start date. So say they want you to start on the 15th of January, you can say, what about the 31st of January? So that gives you more time if you're trying to take a better job opportunity. Okay, next question. U of M student. Hi, Armand. I am a U.S. veteran. Can I utilize the recent graduate hiring path if I graduated with a master's degree in 2019? I got out of the service in 2010. So I can see the confusion here because usually for recent student graduate, it goes up to 6 years if you're a veteran, but that's only if you attained your degree while in service. You got out of the service in 2010 and you got your master's degree in 2019, so you're still limited by the 24 months. So you would have had to use your recent student path by 2021. So the answer in this situation, I believe, is no, you cannot use it. But you're a veteran, so you can use VEOA. And there could be multiple other paths depending if you're disabled, depending if you deployed while you were in the service. So I would explore those. Okay. Sandmar, I'm fluent in Spanish and I have an undergraduate degree in Spanish. What recommendations do you have as starting as an interpreter? I have no formal experience, but I love linguistics. So, what I would do if you want experience being an interpreter is I would start trying to get some volunteer experience. Go to your city hall or your community center and say, "Hey, do you guys give Spanish classes? I want to jump in and help as an assistant." And then you can start building up experience being in, developing those skills. Now, to be an interpreter at a lower grade, you don't necessarily need the experience of being an interpreter. I would look, if you're trying to leverage your Spanish skills, go on USA Jobs and search for Spanish and see what pops up. Oftentimes, I don't know about an interpreter, but if you are interested in something like a teacher, then there could be something there for you. So if you look at Spanish right now, you see that there's 96 jobs. This one requires Spanish level proficiency. This is if you wanted to be a writer. Then you have some if you wanted to work in health, economic assistance, a case advocate, a technician. So there's a lot of different positions where you can leverage your Spanish skills if that's what you want to do. But I would have some sort of experience where you're either teaching it, you're assisting it, or some way that you can say that you were an interpreter. Let's say you worked at a store, right? A retail store, and there was a Spanish speaking customer, and then you assisted with the Spanish speaking customer, talk to the manager because the manager didn't know Spanish. You can put that on your resume that you helped resolve conflict by interpreting Spanish. It doesn't have to be part of your official job duties. If you've done it in a position, take credit for it. Okay, good. Um, okay, let's see. We got Tom Smash. I just got a job offer for a GS7 and I'm happy with it. I bought your book and applied your advice. Chat, will you buy his book? That's what I'm talking about. Hey, congratulations on the job offer. Yeah, I'm glad you got the book. I'm even more happy that you actually received value and it made a difference. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Um, what else we got? A Perry, I live in Kansas. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. No, I'm kidding. Looking for months government job. I see nothing. I'm a child care director. I have a job in customer service. A Perry, look at Kansas. Okay, so obviously remote work is always an option. So you have your remote work filter. You can apply for that. The next thing is there's nothing within your area. Put your zip code in, expand the search radius if you can. If you're willing to commute 60 miles, and the way you do, I don't know where you live in Kansas, but let's just say, I don't know. What's in Kansas? Isn't like Tupelo, Kansas or something? Give me a city in Kansas. And I can't even spell Kansas. Okay, there we go. Let's look at, I don't know, maybe you're in where? Kansas City's in Missouri. So what's the main city in Kansas? I should know that. Kansas. All right. So Topeka? Man, I've never been there. You know where I have been in Kansas? I've been to Fort Riley, and it was a horrible experience. Gave me a bad taste of Kansas. But we're gonna do is we're gonna look here. Let me share my screen. We're gonna put Kansas in here. Okay. So if you're in Topeka, Kansas, there's 476 jobs. Maybe you are open to the public. You are not a veteran. So let's pretend like you are not a veteran. So there's over 150 jobs. Now, what you could do is if you're open to commuting, you can go to location. The default is always 25 miles. Can you guys see that? Let me zoom up for people who can't see that well. All right, so the default is 25 miles. You can get crazy with it and say, you know what? I'm willing to commute, and then maybe that opens up more opportunities. So yeah, it took it from 155 jobs. It took it all the way up to 400 jobs. And then next you have to think about, your job series. You said you are a child care director. Maybe you're looking in education and you shouldn't be. Maybe education is not that there's not that many opportunities in Kansas and you should be looking at a completely different job series. Aside from all of that, I would say look at not just federal government. If you're just trying to find a government job, look at your county, look at your city, look at your state, see what those opportunities are available in those And if not, are you open to relocate? Because there is a relocation reimbursement. Well, the government will pay for your move on the back end, and it could take a couple, take a few months to get that money, but it could be a possibility. All right, let's see. God's favor, love this channel and the information you share with us. Have a happy new year. Yeah, have a happy new year to you and everyone else as well. It's crazy how quick 2024 went by. Um, Then we have Paluche. Thank you, Armand. I've received GS9 offer with the SBA, and I've been referred multiple times. IC11 FEMA positions for GS9 and GS11 since watching your videos. That's amazing. That's great. Um, let's see. Okay, so Doc Emma, what contracting background do Series 1102 hiring managers want to see in resumes? Let's go through that really quick. If you're wondering what hiring managers or what HR is looking for in your resume, oftentimes a good place to start is the OPM Job Series Handbook. So for anybody that's interested, type in OPM Job Series Handbook 2018 into Google. Then you're going to go and click the first link, which is an opm.gov link. I feel like I should zoom this up. Click that. You're going to be presented with a table of contents. And here you can go to the job series that interests you. There's over 300 job series within the federal government. So I believe you wanted 1102. So 1102 is contracting. So it kind of tells you that right off the bat, manage, supervise, perform, or develop policies for work involving procurement of supplies, services, construction, research. And it goes on to negotiating. So you want to kind of have this language in there that would form a strong base. And then you can scroll through here and you can find other information that that could fit, right? So if you want to target, supplies, services, what contracting experience do you have? Research and development, all of that could be there. Mission analysis. So what we're looking at is a treasure trove of information that could be used to form a strong base or a master resume. And then from this point, all you're having to do is to make small modifications to your resume based on the job announcement's specialized experience. So it really lays it out. I mean, are you mentioning that you analyzed offers? Are you mentioning that you're evaluating cost proposals? If you're not, I would start doing that within your resume. Can you guys see this? Hold on. Do you see it better now? You see all these action verbs, how it lays it out? This is the blueprint to an 1102. All right, great. And that's for most jobs. Most job series have something like this. Some of them don't. Like if you're looking at, let's say 0301 or 0501, those are general. Those are like catch-alls. So that could be a blend of different job series so that you're not going to find it. If you cannot find your job series in here, then I would spend the time, I would pull up 10 different job announcements in that series and I would start finding where the commonalities are. And that's how you're going to form it. But most job series are in the OPM Job Series Handbook. Okay. Um, oh, beach material. Would you consider a job with the Department of Energy? Yeah, I would. I know a couple of people, I know a few people that work there. One of them is very close to me and nothing but good things. So the Department of Energy, when you're looking at the Department of Energy, if you look at the nuclear side, that's like its own animal. That's like a whole different culture. Or if you're looking at the non-nuclear side, they really could be two different agencies. That's how different the culture is. Um, all right, let's see. Let me answer this question. All right, Babacar or BD. I worked a federal job for 2 years before quitting. If I return, will those 2 years count towards my service? Yes. When you quit, they issued you an SF-50. They cut an SF-50 and it has your service computation date. If you were to be reinstated or come back into the government service, that time that you spent, it would be counted towards everything. Your leave accrual rate, your pension, it would count. Your sick leave would be reinstated as well. So yes. All right, let's see. Oh, this is when I couldn't figure out what was going on in Kansas. Hey, thank you guys for coming in for me. I'm just behind on the chat right now. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Let me get these other questions. We have, I got to answer Parlor. Parlor came in. Parlor asked me, what's going on with the veteran affairs with non medical positions? So, VHA had a hiring pause through a lot of their offices throughout the country. But the last I checked, there were at least 1,500 non medical positions that the VA is currently hiring for. So, a lot of the agencies, like I mentioned earlier, they were worried about the continuing resolution expiring. And since we have another CR that was approved and signed off on, there shouldn't be a hiring pause. There is no government-wide hiring freeze. Agencies can determine whether they want to take a hiring pause, and sometimes it only impacts a certain division or office within that agency. So I think the VA should be fine for right now. So next question is PC81. I'm currently a GG13. I want to get promoted to a 14, but I'm having a hard time. At this point, should I focus more on work-related experience or management experience? What would set me up to get promoted? Two potential barriers. The first one's, where are you located? Most GS14 jobs and GS15 jobs are in DC, and a lot of them are non-supervisory. So that could be a barrier depending on if you're not located in DC, that could potentially be a barrier. The second one is, are you applying for a supervisory role? If it's a GS14 supervisory role, then that's going to be a requirement. And if you're not a supervisor right now, if you do not have supervisory experience, that could be a barrier. So I would look for an opportunity maybe to take a detail, or in order to get some leadership, supervised management type experience in your current role. Ask your supervisor if that opportunity exists or if they can make it available to you in the future, so you can start getting that necessary experience. That could help you out. Um, Next question is from Love Factory. If I get an overseas GS job, will they help me find housing, or will I have to do it on my own? It's typically done on your own unless you're getting hired at the DOD, Department of Defense, or the Department of State. They sometimes have housing for you. And at a minimum, there'll be a housing office where you can at least contact them and they can give you a good idea on where people are living, what's safe, what's secure, what's not too far away. And for most people, there's an allowance for temporary housing that they can provide you as well until you find a place for a certain amount of time. Next question is Mike Holloway. Looking for a I'm a GS12 looking for a GS13. I'm currently an electrics technician. Limited job opportunities. What's a good series for a GS13? So you're a 08, probably 0856. I would look at 0801. And then I would also look at 2210. 2210, there's some electronic system analyst positions that you could be well suited for. But then you can also leverage your admin skills. You can look at 03. It's less technical, but you could still get a promotion. So I'd look at that too. And let's jump into the chat really quick. What do we have? Just had a VHA interview on Friday. That's good. Thank you for putting in all the work. You got it. No problem. Would you get a step increase? Would you get a step increase transferred to another federal agency at the same GS grade? No, you're not going to get a step increase. So one of the concerns when you're changing agencies at the same GS grade is your locality changes. So let's say you go from San Francisco and now you're working in Iowa. Well, your pay just dramatically went down because you're not getting 40% cost of living. And they're not going to change your step. They're going to match your step. So if you're a step 5 GS12, you're going to be a GS12 step 5, regardless of where you go. If it's a lateral move, they're just going to match it. It doesn't mean your pay is going to be matched. Your grade and step will be matched. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, let me answer this real quick. Oh no, you're actually talking to him. Okay, got it. I don't want to interfere in your conversation. Next question. We have Artritis. He says, I've used search filters for years, and it's been done so for months on USAJobs. Unfortunately, I'm not having much success. Can you please conduct a live search for job series 1670, which is an equipment specialist filtered by hiring agency, DOD, VA, and HHS. Location is Houston, Texas. Pay grade GS11 and GS13. Hey, I think the reality is there are no jobs there for you, but I'll do it. I'll do it. Let's do it. What is it? 1670, right? Yeah, 1670. Let me share my screen. So we'll come here, get rid of all the filters. We'll go to, first thing you should do really wherever you're at is put the city or put the zip code. So we'll look at Houston. If I just put Houston in, I doubt there's a 1670 because there's not that many in the federal government. Let's go to 1670 if it exists. 1670 does not exist in Houston. So that's a non-starter. Let's get rid of Houston because I really think there's probably only a dozen or so 1670s in the entire country or the entire world. Where's 1670? Man, I'm all over the place. Okay. 1600. Yeah, so there's 18 equipment services in the whole world for federal government. There's 18. That's not much. So what you should do is detach yourself from this job series. Let's look at 1670. What are you doing? You got safety, so you can do something in safety. You got maintenance. You got analysis. There's investigation. You're going to review, analyze, and evaluate deficiency reports. So you're reviewing, analyzing, and evaluating reports to make recommendations. There's other job series. You don't have to be committed to 70. Okay. Interesting. This one's in California. Yeah, so if you want to stay in Houston, look at other job series. Or you can just wait, but I don't think you should wait. All right, what are we at here? This is Chupa. Did the elections have an impact on SF-86s being processed? It's not the elections that had an issue with it. The only reason, so the federal agencies, they were in reactionary mode as we were getting closer to December 20th because of the continuing resolution. So also it's the holidays, right? Just like anywhere, holidays is going to be a little bit slower, where you have less HR specialists, you have less people on the security team. Right now, if you have an SF-86 pending, there's an investigation taking place, which is done with a security team. They're adjudicating it, and they're making progress towards it. Now, during the holidays, let's say a normal security office is staffed at 80%. During the holidays, it probably comes down to 25%. It means things are happening slower. I don't think it's based on the election. Next question is, Yaga, what would you do if you keep getting rejected for no experience, but I have a doctorate in my field, have consulted for the government in my field, given many talks in my field and written articles. So Yaga, you have the experience. This comes down to, is it clearly listed on your resume, right? So here's an example. Since I already have this up, if you were applying to this one requires you to apply, research, and develop of current evolving medical technology, right? So if your resume uses a synonym for the word research, maybe you read or you published or you reviewed, but you didn't research, then no matter what your reality is on your experience, it's not going to pass the evaluation. So when HR is adjudicating it, like if HR were adjudicating a resume for this job announcement, they're looking for times where the individual applied research and development. They're looking for medical technology. They're looking for where in your resume does it say medical materials? Does it mention training or doctrine? Does it talk about you verifying medical equipment? People apply to a job like this and they'll never use the word verifying, but they'll use the word checked. I checked medical equipment. You have to use the word verifying, because what ends up happening is, let's say HR hires you, Yaga, and they hire you for a GS-13 position. 6 months goes by, OIG decides to do an audit. Let me check out your hiring actions. Then they pull Yaga's resume up, and they're looking at it. They're like, well, wait a minute. Yaga never said he verified medical equipment. He didn't even mention medical equipment. So you made an illegal hire. You shouldn't have referred him. You should have never been selected. He shouldn't be working at HHS right now. You made an illegal hire. So we're going to go ahead and have your executive report on Capitol Hill to Congress on why HR is making illegal hires. That is why they're so particular when it comes to the wording on your resume. It's not because they're idiots. They're doing it to cover themselves because they do not want to be at risk of failing an audit and making illegal hires. So there's no room for assumptions. Where if you work at Chase Bank, the hiring manager at Chase Bank or Bank of America, they can just make assumptions if they want to, or they just can know you from a guy, from a friend of a friend, a cousin of a friend. They just know you. You're good to go, Marvin. Everyone knows you. We'll give you a shot. But that's not how it is in federal hiring. It's not like that. Man, my audio is glitching out. Are you serious? Okay. Audio is bad? Okay. Hey, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate everyone for being here. If you need help, check it out. Check out the links in the description below. You can schedule a call. We can look through your resume together. We can come up with a hiring plan. You can sign up for the course. I'll edit your entire resume in order to make it competitive for a job series so you can get more referrals, more interviews. And also check out the book if you haven't seen it already. I appreciate everyone being here. And I'm going to see you in the new year because, we only got a few more days left. Really appreciate it. All right. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you can't hear me, bye-bye. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'll just say I'll see you guys later. And then I'll say thanks for showing up. I got to work on this microphone. I don't know what's going on with it.